Paul's teachings on the law can basically be summed up in Romans 3, verse 20. For by the deeds of the law there shall no flesh be justified. We're not justified by works. It says in Ephesians 2, verse 8 through 9, for by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, not of works, lest any man should boast. It's Ephesians 2, verse 8 through 9. That's basically what the first part of Romans 3, verse 20 says. For by the deeds of the law there shall no flesh be justified. For by the law is the knowledge of sin, is the second part of Romans 3, verse 20. The law shows us what sin is, and we should not sin. It says in Romans 6, verses 1 through 2, shall we sin that grace may abound? God forbid. It also says in Romans 6, verses 15 through 16, verse 15, what then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? God forbid. So sin is a transgression of the law, 1 John 3, verse 4. And Paul's saying right there in Romans 6, verse 1 through 2 and verse 15, we should not sin because we're under grace. So Romans 3, verse 20 is a good summary of his teachings. For by the deeds of the law there shall no flesh be justified. We're not justified by the law. We're justified by grace through faith. But the law does show us what sin is, and we should not sin. It's really very simple. What was nailed to the cross? Colossians 2, verse 14, the debt record of our sins is what was nailed to the cross. I think it's Strong's 5498. The Greek word is chirographon. The law was not nailed to the cross. The record of our breaking the law was nailed to the cross. The best translation of Colossians 2, verse 14 I've seen, the NLT, quote, he canceled the record of the charges against us and took it away by nailing it to the cross. Now, Paul said, do we make void the law through faith? God forbid. That's Romans 3, verse 31. And in 1 Corinthians 7, verse 19, circumcision is nothing and uncircumcision is nothing, but keeping the commandments of God is what matters. So, Romans 3, verse 20, read it again. For by the deeds of the law no flesh shall be justified. We can't earn our salvation. The rest of the verse, for by the law is the knowledge of sin. The law, the commandments show us what sin is. And we shouldn't sin. That's common sense. Read Romans. Read what Paul actually said. And it agrees completely with Jesus. And why wouldn't it? Jesus taught Paul directly. The truth was revealed to Paul by Jesus. So there's no conflict. Peace all. Bye-bye.